You know what? I love big screens as much as you do, but sometimes you just need a physical keyboard. What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. And if you're coming from BlackBerry and you're migrating to Android for the first time, you know what? You don't have to get a mid-range device with a keyboard because the Samsung Captivate Glide is here for you. Now, this thing has a physical QWERTY keyboard, but it's packing some pretty rockin' specs. Rockin', I don't know if anybody ever says that anymore, but it's got a dual-core 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, an 8-megapixel camera, got a pretty decent-sized 4-inch display, and more. Android 2.3.5 with TouchWiz 4.0. So this is a pretty feature-packed device, and it may not compete with the big boys with a dual-core 1.5 GHz processors, but it's definitely a nice little low high-end device on AT&T. Let's take a look at it in the full review, but first some love to Best Buy Mobile because they hook us up with phones just like this for use during One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll get all this configured for you, your email set up, your web set up, your call settings, so when you walk out the door, you're good to go and you're walking out working. Let's take a look. Captivate Glide. Should you go with a physical QWERTY keyboard or should you go with something like the Galaxy S2? We'll find out starting right now. So let's say you really like the Galaxy S2 series, and you're on AT&T, but you need a physical QWERTY keyboard. Well, the Samsung Captivate Glide is going to be the device for you. And in all honesty, this is one of probably my favorite devices that I've reviewed in 2011. And you're thinking, come on, Aaron, you've reviewed the Galaxy Nexus, you've reviewed the Skyrocket, the Droid Razr, and more. I'll tell you why I like this, because it's proof that you can have a keyboard on a device and not make it mid-range. That's it's a high-end device, even if it's at the low-end spectrum. It's a nice high-end device with a, or I kind of said that wrong, the low end of the high-end spectrum, if you will. It's made well. It has some nice specs. It has a dual-core 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor. It's got a 4-inch display, which is really nice. 4-inch Super AMOLED display at that. And then it has an 8-megapixel camera on the back with 720p HD video recording, a front-facing camera, and then Android 2.3.5 with TouchWiz version 4. So it's packed, to the gills, and it may not be a Snapdragon, a dual-core 1.5 GHz Snapdragon processor, but it's enough to get the job done. I really like the Tegra series. I think they do a good job in the smartphones, and it continues on with the Captivate Glide. And this is available now at AT&T, and like I said, it packs a keyboard, and while it may not be the best keyboard, more on that a little bit later in the video, it's still nice to have the physical option. So let's dive right into this. If you're coming from the Galaxy S2 series or you're familiar at all with it, you're going to see a lot of similarities here. First of all, it's running Android 2.3.5 with TouchWiz version 4.0. So the same version of TouchWiz that's on the Galaxy S2, that's on the Skyrocket, that's on the Epic 4G Touch, all the members of the Galaxy S2 family. So that's really nice. TouchWiz 3.0, not my favorite. They just rehauled and did a great job with TouchWiz 4.0. You can see how quick this device is. Very snappy in day-to-day performance. You can see out of the box you get All Share, AT&T Code Scanner, AT&T Family Map, featured apps. You get Live TV, My AT&T, and then over here you get Quick Light, Social Hub, which is actually a Samsung program, YP Mobile, and more. Now you can uninstall most of the AT&T stuff, which is really nice. So AT&T, for you Android lovers, they've done two things that are really nice. Not only can you install third-party applications that aren't from the Android market, but you can also come in here and uninstall the AT&T stuff. So you can get rid of that bloatware if you don't want it or you don't think you're going to use it. Now just to give you kind of a run through here of TouchWiz, you can see the notification bar. You've got shortcuts to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, flight mode, and screen rotation, and the network ID over there. But you can see, just a really smooth performance. 7 home screens here, and we'll go to a blank one just so you can see some of the changes. Maybe you're coming from a Droid charger. If you're on AT&T, the Infuse 4G, we're going to see some changes to the menu structure as well. You can see in TouchWiz 4.0, everything's grouped down here on the bottom. So we can go in here to widgets, and you can see instead of that ugly Android folder that pops up and kind of says, do you want widgets, folders? It pops up in a nice, neat, clean look here, and the screen is nice and vibrant. So you can see, we'll just do AccuWeather, for example. Now, Samsung's really done a good job. I did not care for their widgets in TouchWiz 3.0, but they've done a really good job of not only coming up with some nice widgets, but making them customizable as well. So you can customize the size of this, and make it like that. You can make it a little bit larger if you want to. And that said, let's say you get to a home screen like this where you don't have a lot of space. HTC Sense makes some beautiful widgets, but that said, they're not customizable. So if you don't have one that fits that size, where you're kind of out of luck. Whereas with this, at least with most of the widgets, the Samsung widgets, you can customize and kind of fit those in. So just get more widgets on the screen. All those little customization options are things that I really enjoy. And I think you can actually, let me go in here real quick to settings and see display, and then go down to animation, window animation, screen display, and then you can change the font as well if you want to. So you have a default font, Choco Cookie, Helvetica S, and you can change the fonts online. So not exactly, you know, if you're talking about personalization, it's not all the way up to par with HTC Sense 3.5 or 3.0, with the ability to change the lock screen and, you know, change your wallpapers and get the, or I should say, get your wallpaper from HTCSense.com or HTC Hub. It is not quite there just yet, but TouchWiz 4.0 offers quite a few options in the customization department, so that's really nice. So we can see some changes here on the AT&T version versus, you know, if you're really a stickler like I am and you look for things like this, you'll see that the messaging icon has changed on the AT&T version, a little different there, and we'll jump right in and take a look at the interface. Now this is pretty cool as well. I don't like that they pulled this out of the international Galaxy S2 option, and that said, this isn't a Galaxy S2 technically, but still running TouchWiz 4.0. I miss the ability to create or set up custom themes for messaging. You can change the font size from between normal, small, and tiny, but if you remember in my Galaxy S2, the unlocked version review I did, you had the option to change the theme of messaging as well. So you could change the colors, you could change the way it looked, and more. You don't have that option to do it on the Americanized versions of these devices. But you do get 3 keyboards out of the box. You get the Android keyboard, you get Samsung keypad, and then you get swipe pre-installed as well. So a couple of different options depending on what suits you. Now this is a 4-inch display, which I've often argued is a pretty nice sweet spot for a lot of people. You can use it, of course, in portrait or in landscape without the keyboard open, and that's pretty nice. So we're going to come over here and rotate back and say the quick rumor dog is hungry for some pasta. How about that? Quick brown rumor dog is hungry for some pasta. So pretty quick and easy to type on. You can of course turn on vibration if you want to, but then you get a nice 4-row physical QWERTY keyboard. Now this is really great for somebody that's coming over from BlackBerry, coming over from a mid-range Android device, coming over from anything with a keyboard, and they're like, you know, I don't know if I can go all the way to a touchscreen just yet. I need a nice kind of device to ease my way into the touchscreen waters. This is a good one for you. Now that said, you can see 4-row QWERTY keyboard here with a dedicated row for the spacebar and associated symbols, which I really like, and then you get your menu, your home, your search, and your back buttons over here, so easy shortcuts to those buttons instead of coming up here on the display and pressing those. So that's nice. Then you get, of course, a D-pad over here with OK, and it's pretty quick and easy to type on. Now that said, I don't really care for this keyboard, and I'll tell you why. The keys are island spaced, or there's island separation, if you will, between the keys, which is really nice, and that's a good thing. But if you notice, and I'm going to try to get this as close to the camera as I can, you can see those keys are really flat to the actual metal. So they're very recessed in the device. It makes it hard to get any sort of tactile feedback. So we'll say the Quick Brown Fox. We're going to bring the Quick Brown Fox back really quickly for this video. The Quick Brown Fox is back, or actually Quick Brown Fox is back from vacation. Let's say that. Quick Brown Fox is back from actual shorthand, vacay. So you can see here, you know, it's one of those things, if I'm looking at the keyboard, I'm looking at the keys, it's pretty easy to type on. If I were to close my eyes, or if I didn't have my full focus on the keyboard, it would be hard to figure out which keys were where, with the exception of the fact that the F and the J, of course, have the little raised print on them. That said, you know, I've seen some better keyboards in the market. I've seen the Droid 3, to me, has the best keyboard of any Android device. The keys are very tactile. The rubbery texture makes it easy to type, and they're very grippy as opposed to these, where they are kind of flat, a little bit harder to type on, and the keys are just slightly slanted to the left. Now this may be, you know, I may be being too picky. You may think, well, this is a great keyboard. I've used it before. I really like it, and that's good. But I would recommend taking a look at it in store prior to buying it or committing to it for 2 years. Make sure it's a keyboard you can use, especially if you email or text message on a regular basis. Now, that reminded me, let's take a look at the design of this device really quickly. And, you know, I like it because a lot of these devices, when you look at them, you know, you think, okay, physical QWERTY keyboard installed, it's got to be a bulky device. Well, not really. This is a pretty unbulky device, if you will. It's got a volume rocker over on the left side, a power button over here on the right side, no camera button, which is kind of a disappointment, but you do get a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a micro USB charging port up here with a little flap, or a little door, if you will, that opens and closes. So a nice little touch there. That's pretty cool. I like the texturized battery cover. I like the little metal accent here above the 8-megapixel camera as well. And then you get this battery here as well, which is nice. You get a battery. Congratulations. And it's 1,650 milliamp hour battery. So it's, you know, not going to be the biggest battery in the world, but given the display size, given the power of this device, I've been able to make it through a day with moderate use. So you shouldn't see too much trouble with the battery, even though, like I said, it is a little bit smaller. It's the same battery that comes with the international Galaxy S2, and it's done pretty decently across the board. Now, it is an HSPA Plus device. It supports, I believe, and I'll have to double check on this for the editing, but I believe it supports up to 21 megabits per second HSPA Plus. Now, you're never going to see that as a theoretical speed bump you'll see speeds most likely between 2 and 5 megabits per second, given the, depending on which market you're in. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's take a look at web browser here, and we'll go ahead and load up our favorite site, phonedog.com, and that is not phonedog.com. Let's see here. PhoneDog, it's screwing me up not having the tactile feedback turned on. Let's see here. PhoneDog.com. There we go. Hey, Katy Perry debuts a dramatic new hairstyle. It's pretty exciting. Maybe I should do a dramatic new hairstyle. That'd be pretty fun too. So you can see it loads up pretty quickly and easily, and like any of the other TouchWiz enabled devices, I've got a nice little preview section here so I can go and open a new window, come back to the Yahoo page, for example. Let's say I really want to check out Katy Perry's style here. I can click on that, and I can go right back. Drastic hair makeover, wow. And come back to phonedog.com and see that it's fully loaded. So pinch to zoom, very responsive, and again, this is really where you see that Tegra 2 processor at work. I'm getting a little bit of checkerboarding, but just incredibly responsive performance. And then, of course, going from portrait to landscape, nice and zippy, no real lag there whatsoever. And I can easily scroll up and down. Like I said before, let's say I'm reading this Samsung Devices article from Taylor, transparent Samsung Devices, and I come back to Windows. I can see right where I left off, and go back to reading his article and pick up where I left off. So you have browser brightness, refresh, and more. So typical browser setup here, a typical TouchWiz browser setup, I should say, out of the box on the Captivate Glide. It's a very good performance. Again, if browsing's your thing, if you're looking for just a good all-around device, text messaging, for browsing, for doing some media content, it seems to be good so far. Is it good on the network side? Is it good on the camera side? What kind of apps can you get? We'll find out in part 2.